Alright, turning ding. Alright. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is a portion of the meeting that you're not on the agenda and you have something you want to bring up to the board. We'll listen to it, but we can't act on it. We'll act on it in a future meeting. So is there anybody that's not on the agenda and they have something they want to bring up? Okay. Mr. Buchanan. How you doing, sir?
Doing well.
I see you survived the end of the year.
Yes.
Yes.
It was a interesting one, unfortunately.
I gotta ask you a personal question. I was
Okay.
driving by your house. Do you have one of those leg lamps?
Yes, my wife decided that was the new Christmas decoration for this year. So yes, and it's right there front and center for everybody in town to see. So.
I thought so. Sorry to embarrass you.
We've gotten several comments on that.
I think that's what that was.
Yes. And it came in a box. It said for G League. All right. Okay, so I think you have the packets. I believe she has for you.
This should be.
This one being the one I'm starting with. It's basically a summary of all the policies. And so you have a combination of several companies and policies that make up your overall protection. And for the most part, if you talk about the number of policies, they all stayed fairly in line with the way they were last year from a coverage and pricing standpoint, other than the package. So we'll spend probably more time talking about that. It was a little bit of a roller coaster ride with them on this year for the renewal. From the fact that we started out with a non-renewal on it from Liberty Mutual. However, was able to communicate with them and highlight some of the things you have going on that are going well. And that's a reflection on a few things. Some of it's just the marketplace in general. Insurance is definitely in a turmoil for this year and next year from pricing and all the companies taking rate increases because they've been losing money. So able to highlight some things, and we were able to get the policy renewed, and then it's a matter of from a pricing standpoint and the deductible. So there's a couple, that's the biggest things that from a change on that package policy will be the pricing and some of the deductibles. And then also increases in the property, which is customary. So with the cost of inflation of materials and labor and various things like that, obviously we got to keep that in line. And so there was an increase on that. So if we start with that right on that first line on the first page of Liberty Mutual, your buildings and personal contents blanketed throughout all your ownership is $42 million, basically. Last year you were at $36 million. In the Marine has been adjusted according to the list. We're circulating that throughout the departments. Then everything else pretty much stays in line in that first category with what the coverage was prior to. The big thing to note, which this is the big hit we're taking on this package policy, is not just the individual deductible. So the property deductible went from $5,000 to $10,000. But they have taken a wind hail deductible on this policy. And this is a stance that Liberty Mutual has taken as a whole across all municipalities. And this is due to the impact they've had nationwide and specifically Indiana when it comes to wind hail claims. And so they have a $100,000 wind hail claim.
So the first $100,000 is the deductible.
Yes, and that's I argued with them on that, and that is something they've drawn a hard line in the sand, and that has no reflection on Scott County. That is just their book of business and what they've seen. Indiana's been hit hard, but then nationwide they've been hit hard too. So That's probably the biggest eyesore to this whole package is that one thing right there. Heading on down, all this, you know, your liability, all those limits have remained the same. Business auto, liability limits are the same. We've adjusted, we've, like I said, circulated with mostly with Shasta and making sure we get the auto schedule correct, and throughout some of the other departments too. So that obviously has adjusted from last year. Deductibles range depending on the size of the vehicle, and you can see that on the list that was provided. What the deductible is per vehicle. So there on that last line, then you'll see the premium there for the Liberty package.
What was the package for the total cost for last year? Do you have that? Or?
Yes, it was, well, I didn't write it down, hold on. I got my total, but I don't have the individual total. $353,309.
So it's went up over $100,000.
Yes. 130, basically.
And again, I guess I'm gonna back up. Is that a reflection of the market, or is that a reflection of claims that we've had that they've said were, you know, costing them money?
Both. So it is market and it is claims. So the experience over the last 3 years has, and I have the claims package here that we circulated in the beginning back during the RFP process. Last 3 years with Liberty have not been great. And we're talking, looks like the last report was $628,000 in claims over the last 3 years. That's a combination of dollars paid out and money they still have in reserve for for expected closeouts of those claims.
Are these auto claims, or?
It's heavy, it's a spread. It is spread. It is heavy on auto. And then they do view some of that as preventable. And so that was some of the uphill battle we've had in our conversations. If we look at a 5-year, which when you go back 5 years, you're talking about 2 years for travelers. So when we took over the account, it was in 2018. You were with HCC prior to. We placed you with travelers, had you with travelers for 2 years. There is a situation with travelers on their general liability. They have an exclusion for basically for landfills and or transfer stations. So we needed to move you from travelers to someone else. And with Liberty, we actually, not only did we solve that problem, we ended up getting a better pricing situation. So we were able to save you money. So it was a win-win. The 2 years with travelers were much better from a claims scenario. And so that was part of my arguments with Liberty Mutual was, you know, try to look at it from a 5-year perspective and not a 3-year perspective. But when you factor in with the market, then they just, in the end, I couldn't get them to budge. And so they, you know, and there's, even throw out the potential of some of those open claims that have not closed out could potentially end up, you know, reserves could be increased on those, and so that was another thing. But it is based off of, and a big bulk of those are auto claims.
So what would be our next biggest claims as far as, I don't think we've had any building claims, have we?
Not to my knowledge. Are we?
There's liability, and there was.
Is that like slips and falls?
Slips and falls, or tort claims, something that may come from the jail, things like that, all that within the liability side.
It's the only time we get sued that goes up as well. That is, are you the one that handles the insurance for
Yes.
those lawsuits?
Yes. And, some of those are closed out at zero, and then, but obviously some of them are not. But it is, I mean, it's the bulk, it falls under the auto side.
Do you know how many wrecks we've had?
I can count them. I mean, I've got the list. I don't know if I included in that original, this last email packet that was sent out, because it was in the, back in October package, but I can get that, and I can leave this list that I have here. Did I send, I don't know.
I don't know if I see anything that has anything to do with the
Yeah.
accident.
So,
I see VIN numbers and.
yeah. So this is the list. Let me find the autos. It's auto.
Yeah, I don't see it.
It's about 16, 3 years.
16 accidents in 3 years, correct?
Yes. Commissioners nominated. Follow-ups on those.
Do we have that information or something?
It's not on here.
There might be a few more. There's some, those were just the liabilities, so there is some more. So I'd have to study this a bit more because it's broken out between the auto liability claim side and the property damage side. So some of those might be, there's an ongoing list beyond that, but some of those may be duplicated from the liability side. So there's several more listed, but some of those would be duplicates. So I would say it's actually probably above that, maybe closer to 20 some.
Okay.
If you,
Well, I know, I guess maybe this is something we need to look at. We're having a lot of accidents, maybe we need to create a policy of some driving, I guess, training or something for some people, or try to do something like we did with EMS and some of their medical
yes,
back situations. I mean, we've reduced those, and the injuries they've had, workman's comp issues, so maybe we can,
yes,
maybe we need to do something on the other side of whoever's gonna be driving a county vehicle. They need to have a refresher of defensive driving or something, because, you know, coming from UPS, I mean, our drivers had to do that every year, so.
yeah,
And to my knowledge, people get hired and here's the wheel.
right.
So,
Yeah, with IPEP is what you're referring to, who's worked with EMS over the years, I think has done a good job, and it has significantly improved. And, you know, the work comp overall has significantly improved. There's still room to go, but part of that's just because that takes time to all wash out, because you still have the past that continues with you.
yeah.
And I'll hit on that in just a second, but that has improved. And so they do have some driving programs too, because that does impact work comp when, you know, employees injured. So not just the auto side, but then you've got the employee injury side. So they have some programs too. We can see, and they do, work comp companies do a great job of instructional type things. P&C companies can too, the property casualty. I can read and see what Liberty has, but I would lean on IPEP first to see about that. And I can check, I'll look at that specifically.
I've got a good contact for IPEP for a lot of their preventable stuff. She came down 4 or 5 months ago and gave a bunch of list of stuff.
I mean, you feel that a good resource?
IPEP?
Yes. So that's the Liberty package on this first page. Is there anything other pertaining to that? Which would include the schedules you were mentioning, the property schedule and the auto schedule. And then the only other thing with that is, we have terrorism that on this particular package, since it's including the property side, we do include the terrorism, and that's something that some of the other paperwork that was in there also.
Okay. Any questions?
So who's allowed to, who has in the past been calling you and asking to add vehicles and stuff like that? How are you getting that list?
For the most part, it's coming from the auditor's office.
Okay,
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yes.
Okay, so what about the other part?
Occasionally, we'll get a notification from the sheriff's office of a vehicle that they purchased. But I believe that most of it's is routed through the auditor's office and with Shasta, with Shasta now, prior to, I mean, she's not been there that long in that position, but, you know,
About 10
that
minutes.
position, yes.
So can we do it where nobody can do that except for the auditor's office moving forward?
I mean, that's, if I'm aware of a vehicle, I want to be sure it's covered. So if you got on your end, you want to route things certain ways, it's good that, you know, that we have kind of a checks and balances through, you know, a responsible party who's kind of responsible for all. And so that's on you guys how you want to decide on the reporting of it. So, and again, throughout the year, it's more of a tally of vehicles because we audit those throughout at the end of the year. The only thing that really we'd want to be specifically taken note of would be for an ambulance because we have a special coverage endorsement for those to get the agreed value. That's something that we worked on last year. So we definitely would want to know those. And then it's more of a tracking throughout the year, and then we audit those and adjust those at each year.
Yeah,
So-
I get that. I just don't want to keep adding vehicles without us knowing them. And I know it's happened.
All right.
So, and I mean, in order to try to, the less vehicles you have on there, the less accidents you know.
Well, yeah.
Possibly.
At the same time, if it's county owned, we need to be sure you have some liability there because that's the bigger risk.
Yeah. Well, no, I get that, but
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean it has to be on the road,
Yeah. Oh well. Okay.
right?
I guess that brings up a question of, and you mentioned the sheriff's department. If the sheriff goes and buys a vehicle and it doesn't come through this board and it's not titled to the board of commissioners, and he calls you and says, put it on the county's insurance, is that vehicle covered? Because it's not our vehicle. I mean, and we're the ones that have the insurance policy, and if he's buying vehicles without properly properly titling them in the commissioner's name, because nobody in this county can own a vehicle if it's not owned by the board of commissioners.
Right.
So if he's got vehicles that are on our insurance policy and he, you know, thinks that they're properly insured, but they're involved in an accident, they find out that the sheriff owns them and not the county, are they covered?
We definitely should have titles in the proper names.
Cause I haven't signed the title and I don't know how long,
Right.
so, and it's been,
Neither have I.
Greg's been here a year, so at least a year, nobody has signed a title from the sheriff's office.
Do we know if there's vehicles title in a different name?
I don't know that, cause I don't know what he's buying. I mean, I saw a military vehicle roll through town on a flatbed yesterday and
One of the old ones? Cause there's been one.
This was,
No, this is a new
this was,
military transport vehicle.
Okay,
so I mean, that's what we're talking about, and I'm looking at the liability part of it.
absolutely,
Because if we have a county employee driving a vehicle that we think it's insured properly.
right.
And also,
With the military vehicles, I don't know if that they fall under the same. I mean, usually that falls under like a DRMO, like they take title. Actually, the sheriff's office takes title
I
to
know
those
that
things
program.
for like, as long as they hold them for a year, they roll off the federal inventory onto the counties. I don't know whether or not those vehicles can be titled in the commissioner's name, because the program, I think, only applies to.
we get that, and that's fine, but are they properly
It should
insured?
still be covered, assuming that you've gone through all the processes. I mean, assume that there's like a list of covered vehicles.
There is a list, yes. And any newly purchased vehicles throughout the year are automatically included, and then we audit at the end of the year, and then they fall onto the schedule.
Well, the pickup truck that drives around with the inmates, that's a government vehicle as well. I believe, and again, I fall into, are we covered? If it's not,
Well, I will say I don't know the specifics on the requirements for the titling of certain vehicles, if they're military issue vehicles. Other vehicles should be titled in the commissioner's name. I would say like best practice is obviously to do that. I don't know what an insurance company would think about if a vehicle was listed on their policy that's not titled correctly, but they still provide coverage. I would think so because it's on the policy. But
It's gone
I'm not
both
gonna
ways,
speak for-
and,
yeah.
you know, when sometimes court cases can go different ways too,
Yeah.
but there's been situations to where, because the premium's been paid, that it's covered, and there's times it's not. So I guess I'd kind of narrow it down to the fact, if there's another entity that could be titling vehicles, no matter what department, we would want that entity name to where we could actually add that as an additional named insured, second named insured to the policy. And then that would solve the problem. So I've not been aware of any other entity
I
that,
don't think there is
No, there's
another
not.
entity to.
okay.
Yeah.
So then I guess if it's titled, if you're using that example, I don't know what it could be. I still would think it's probably in the county's name, but if it's not, if it were to say Scott County Sheriff for some reason, that almost becomes like a DBA, even though we don't have an official DBA listed on policy, so then maybe you get into some kind of, umbrella assumed coverage there. But I wouldn't want to be in that situation. I'd all listed
think
the
that's
proper
a good
name.
idea.
well, I'm
So
just,
I'll validate that.
also, to talk a little bit more about that, I mean, and I'm not picking on the sheriff by any means, I wanna make sure we're covered with what we got.
Sure.
But if he purchases vehicles from another department, say he's purchasing it from Jackson County
Oh, okay.
Sheriff's
Yeah.
Department, it doesn't come through us again, where's the title, and who's signed the title, and who's the title's name in, and all that other stuff, that's where that's the concern I have. The military stuff, I don't know if they're even licensed those things, I don't know how many times they're ever on the road, I don't know if they got a municipal tag on them or not, but, I just wanna make sure we're covered.
Well, there's some of the old military vehicles that are on our list now. They've been on there for
I've
years.
seen the Hummer
And
on
they
there
still-
before,
Yeah,
so.
so I'm not aware of the new one here yet, but, and,
So here's my problem with it, and it ain't got nothing to do with the sheriff, it's got to do with, you can look at that truck and you know right away that's gonna take either for hire license at a minimum, or a CDL driver.
right, yeah. That's a machine.
So that's my problem with it.
I just wanna make sure.
I don't want people out there driving who isn't properly licensed to drive stuff like that, and that end up on our insurance.
Right,
So,
That was my whole line of question.
okay.
So I wanna, that's why I would like to see it ran through the auditor's office first, that way we know that that's being requested to have insurance put on, and that way we can find out whether or not they have a CDL driver that is even capable of driving it.
And I'll say the majority have come from the auditor's office. There's not been a large number, but I know, I'm not even thinking this year, I'm thinking just over the last 5 years, I just know that there's been occasionally that I've been notified by someone else other than the auditor's office. And I feel like we're probably okay, but since it's come up, I definitely want to circle back and just validate that all vehicles are titled in the commissioner's name. You know?
Yep. I mean, like, everybody at the county highway department has a CDL license.
Right.
Every one of them. So, and that's because of the equipment they drive.
Sure.
And the sheriff's office needs to be the same if they're gonna be getting stuff like that.
Or, designated driver.
Well, yeah, I mean, not
designated.
every one of them, but
Yeah.
they need to have a
If
CDL
if that's
driver
required. Yeah.
or somebody with a for hire license.
Sure.
alright, what else you got?
Okay, like I said, once we get past that page, the rest of the policies pretty much stay in line with prior year. The next page is your cyber liability coverage. Pricing actually improved just a few dollars on that. The BiPEP, which is your work comp, is on that third page. The overall policy price has gone up a couple $1,000s, but the rate has actually lowered a little bit. So basically the increase is due to increased payroll, because that is right in line with your payroll. From a premium standpoint, it's rated off your payroll. So your experience mod has improved a little bit. The company actually discounted a little bit. So the price, I believe, is up like $2,000, but your rate has improved. And so it's all going in the right direction on that side. So we just need that trend to continue, and we can see some additional improvements on that next year probably. Then at the bottom there is the reserve accident plan. So this is a accident plan for the reserves, and it gives them a little bit additional coverage and a little bit of disability income coverage, because the reserves, they're out there, but they're unpaid. So they can get some medical coverage from the work comp policy, but they don't get any kind of income coverage for their job wherever they work outside of the county. And so it's not a lot, but it is a little bit of coverage that comes from this. And then some other accident, if they have some type of injury, some additional benefit on top of the medical that comes from the work comp policy. That fourth page is the EMS school coverage. That is something that falls outside that Liberty and a lot of the other companies won't do. So it's special coverage. So you have the educator's legal liability. That's protection for the instructors, for them as a professional instructing the students. And then the second is the liability for the school itself and the students when they're out on the road, potentially providing care and things like that. So, because there's professional coverage for that for the students, because that also doesn't fall under the Liberty package for the students. If they're an employee, they're covered as EMS for the professional liability, but not the student, since they're not an employee. Okay. And those prices are right in line, basically the same as last year.
What else you got?
That's the package, and that's all the policies. Then we have the schedules, if there's any question on specific schedules, or either an auto or a building location, anything of that nature. And for, to finalize all that, I would need signature on the property schedule and signature on the 2 terrorism forms.
You're talking about this one?
That's the property, yes, and I'll have you do this one, just let it out.
Well, as Randy alluded to in the beginning, can we get something at the end of the year or you know, now it's already past the end of the year, but, of what claims we have had so that we can kinda know what areas we're having issues in and
So
be
here's,
able to.
this is an older list, yes. So this is an older list. I'll get an updated one, now that we're past the first of the year, of what the whole year was. And now the open claims can still adjust from there, so.
Oh, I get that.
It's still out, but, so the numbers will change a little bit on
That's
that.
from September.
And, yeah, and then, try to maybe see if I can
I
make
just
some
like to
notes on
know,
something.
hey, we need to do some training in areas or not training in areas, or the individual department needs to be doing some more work or what, so.
Yeah, it's
um,
definitely auto at this point right now. You know, we had, you know, years past, we had other thing, and now it's, you know,
Well, I know
transition
we've
cycle.
had some lawsuits too, so, you know.
And there's a little bit there, but it's, the dollars aren't as big on that side, at least at this point.
Okay.
You know, they still come in, we just got a new one the other day, so.
So is our tort, I guess our tort claims and stuff are in line with what's expected?
Yes, when you look at it from a claim dollar versus, premium dollar, the auto is the biggest that's out of line from a percentage standpoint. When you look at what we call as loss ratio, it's basically at 200%. So for every dollar that you've paid in premium, you've paid out $2 in claims on the auto side. And this is going by memory, I can pull up my email, but on either the, what was it, the public officials and or the, some of the liability, it was like a 60–70%, but the premium for that line of business is only about $20,000. So it wasn't big on the dollars. Premium, you know, the percentage wasn't great, but the premium or the dollars in claims wasn't that much. But when your auto liability and property damage altogether with the auto line is close to $200,000, and then you got 200%, you know, you're doubling that. That's where it's at. So, and that's in the end, that's where they just drew the line. So I couldn't get them to come off the premium from where we ended up being.
So does that have what you gave Mike there, does that have the dollar amount that has been spent out on?
The last page has a
Each one
total,
max.
and then each claim has an amount assigned to it. I'll get you the most updated, and I'll disperse that through email, and you can have those, and I'll try to make any notes that I see that maybe stand out to me.
That'd be very helpful
Yeah.
from our standpoint, just to try to figure out where we need to improve.
I mean, somewhere or another, we got tired of the software, don't keep growing.
Right,
So we gotta,
yeah,
look at that.
yeah,
Yeah, we need to reduce our claims, so that's training or limiting some exposure, I don't know. But, well, at this point, I need to entertain a motion to accept the plan and the new rate, I guess.
I'll make that motion.
Randy makes a motion to accept Buchanan's insurance policy for liability for 2024. Greg?
I'll say,
Greg, second. I'll make that unanimous, so I guess we're insured for another year.
thank you, appreciate that. And then signatures on the second page of that first one.
so
What
we're
is
leaving
that?
the
Third.
lamp up all year long.
Yes.
You take it out.
I don't plan to, but we'll see.
That's what it is. This one here. Where at? Here?
Yes,
Top one?
yeah, there's two lines, you only need one signature. Everybody watching this meeting now, so he's driving past us. So go see it.
Nothing here?
Yeah, there's a signature, right here.
You got your hand up, Nick.
I know I asked this last year, and I know we didn't know when I asked, and you probably told me, but I forgot. Are our vehicles full replacement, or are they like current value replacement?
So that's the endorsement I was referring to. So yes, so we were able to amend that and get the endorsement to give
Full
you
replacement value?
agreed value.
Okay.
So we have, it's not true, it's not a full replacement, but it's agreed value to what you tell me an amount. We put that amount.
So that's those numbers that I gave you?
Yes.
What it would, okay.
Yes.
I got you.
Yeah, I think there was like 340, a 270, and stuff like that. So it's based on those amounts.
Okay.
And, yeah,
So that's the stuff that we worked on the middle of last year, those values I gave you is
Yes.
what we're insured at?
yes,
Okay, perfect.
yep,
All right.
Sorry, I do have one more question.
okay.
All right, so on business insurance, for instance,
Okay,
you know, when you have trucks, semi-trucks, then most insurance companies require you to turn in the information from the drivers that are going to be driving that, their copy of their CDLs, their health card, and all that, right? And their experience. So do we not do that here as a county? Is that not getting turned into you? Do we not, is that something we don't do?
well, that's a whole nother level when you get into like the tractor trailers and that type of licensing. So yeah, so that's and that's more that, you talked about the health report and things like that they have to do. And that's, I believe that's the state to get the license and keep that up to date. From an insurance standpoint, we just need to have the, you know, the driver information and know that they have the proper licensing for that vehicle they may be driving.
Are we doing that, giving you
so-
that information?
And, well, that's more general, specifically for this account, we just need the basic driver information. So, and, you know, it's on you to be sure that you're having the proper person driving. And so we want to be sure to have those checks and balances, but we're not having a specific list to say, okay, you can only allow these 5 people to drive this vehicle because of the CDL or something like that. That's more administrative on the department and or the county to do that. The insurance expects that you're
We're following our
procedures.
guidelines?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
okay.
okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
See ya.
And then the next thing up is the VA's cell phone stipend. And Zach's got an ordinance, I think, for that.
I see a policy,
Huh?
I see a new policy coming.
Let's just skip to Nick. We'll come back to that. It's just approving a phone stipend.
Yeah.
Are you happy?
Are you?
Probably not.
Fair enough. December's run report, or financial and runs are up there. December, we finished at 196.9. Training, we ended the year at 31, paramedic at 78.7. Run volume was at 407 for the December. Our year was 2.1 million in revenue.
That's what I was talking about.
I'm happy with that, yes. With paramedic, it was at 2.14. That's the most that this service has seen by about $500,000. Beginning balance of our cash ledger, which is where our budget operates off of, since I'm not front loaded. At the beginning of the year, we started at 592. We ended the year at 1.15 in the bank account, difference of 560,000. So last year's revenue was a total of 1.6. This year's 2.1.
That's great.
Any questions about revenue?
I, for one, appreciate it.
Very well.
Run volume was down 1%. We did 4,721 runs this year. Last year we did 4,801. So we're down 1%, which, I mean, it's fairly close to each other. Out of those runs, 2,238 were ALS teched, 1,507 were BLS teched, another 976 of them were AMAs or canceled runs. So that's a lot of.
That's right.
Yeah. Total transfers from Scott Memorial were 1,120 transfers for the year.
I know that's a lot. I guess I'm gonna ask a question.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if you have that information or not, but I know that transfers are usually you're gonna recoup your money on transfers more than you would
It's
maybe.
easier, we have the potential to recoup the cost because there's typically a medical necessity for a higher level of care, correct? So it's harder, as long as the paperwork that's submitted to us meets what our run report reads, then yes, we can collect because the insurance company, you know, if Scott says, hey, we don't have neuro here, and we have to send them to somewhere that has neuro, and we're saying, hey, there's a neuro deficit, yeah, I mean, they're gonna pay that claim. If you have a hospital, not just Scott, anybody that says, hey, this person can't walk, and you walk in the hospital and they're doing a cartwheel down the hallway, we're probably not gonna get paid for that because we have verified they can. So it just depends on paperwork we receive and how we document our report, but typically, yes, we can recoup more money, from those transfers, yes. So that is what that data was. Any questions about revenue or run data?
No, I'm just happy to see I know I talked to you a week or so ago and you told me you were gonna be over the $2 million mark. And
We had a good month of December.
early in the year, you thought you were gonna be at 1.9.
The two, yep.
So,
The last half of the year, since June really, with the exception of 2 months, we've cleared over 180,000 each month. So we had, July was a little low at 160, and in September we had an awful month at 130. But then we had the 193, the 180, the 234, the 218, and then last month at 197. So those are huge months for us, and it's what I've seen. We had was a couple outliers at first of having high revenue. I thought we were just having good months, but we've had some consistent trends up. I mean, if you look, like I said, at the sheet that I give, there's only 4 months on there that are less than 150,000. So those are good months.
and we're fully staffed.
Yeah, we've purged a few people from our part-time roster just due to different issues, but prior to that purge, we had 40 employees, including part-time. I think we're down to like 33 or 34 right now, after we just start the year fresh, so we've got quite a few.
Good.
But as far as the full-time staff goes, yeah, we're solid. Next order of business, which is the final time that I will have to talk to you guys about this, thank God. We have that striker bill due, and I don't know, if you want me just to request to take it out of my budget, do you want to explore other avenues to pay that? How do you want to do that?
Well,
and to clarify, the total bill is $161,063.86.
Wait, how much is it?
161,000. There is a $7,669.71 late fee.
Already?
That's included in that from last year. So I called where
I
I'm,
thought they waived it.
so did I, where I called them and, because we knew we were over the time frame, and I don't remember who from the council called, and they said as long as we have it, they told this is government, we're going through this process, blah, blah, blah. They said as long as it was paid by this date, there wouldn't be one. We paid by that date, because I think the check was wrote that like, not wrote, but was processed and signed that evening. Should have went out the following Friday or whatever, and so I know they got it by the deadline. Unfortunately, the late charge is still on there, so I called to talk to them, where I'm not on the contract that was signed, they won't tell me anything.
we'll let him call, because was involved in that early on.
Okay.
So I think the normal bill is like 153.9,
That's
with the late
fine.
fee is at 161.
I thought it was 153, so.
So,
So you got 90 days to figure out where you're gonna pay this from.
Correct. And I wanted to do this now so we don't get hit with more. I will say, we had great revenue, like I said, we've got 1.1 in the bank, but I've got a $2.5 million budget next year that I've gotta meet. So, I mean, if I gotta pay it out of my budget, then we just gotta know that we're setting back from where I wanna be. I'm not saying I won't, because obviously I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'm not saying I can't, the money's there, but will the money be there in 6 months? Will the money be there in 8 months? You know, I can't read the future, so if we wanna pay it out of my budget, then I'll have to go to the council and just do an additional appropriation for this. Do we wanna explore, I don't think it can be paid out of ARPA, but do we wanna explore covering some of my budget with, I'm just here to figure out what you'd like me to do, because council meeting's this month, and I need to tell Jennifer because I would like to get this started now, so we're not in a shamble in March.
I'd like to look at, maybe another avenue, but not to just take your money, but, and I understand if that has
It's
to
gotta be
happen,
paid,
it
so,
has to happen,
yeah.
and I don't wanna pay another late fee, so.
I figured I'd bring it up now,
Yeah.
at least give you 2 weeks or
I
whatever
knew
to
it was coming, so.
figure it out, and I can reconvene with you guys at the next meeting and see what we wanna do.
Have you talked to redevelopment? Wasn't that, didn't they make a portion payment 1 year?
They did.
Not for me,
They did?
I thought they did.
they bought the truck. So, they did and they didn't. So when I sold that truck,
They took it back,
so I sold the truck, that behemoth truck that we had,
yeah.
and they reappropriated me back the money since it was 2 years and I sold the truck, they gave me back that money. I did use part of that money to pay, they didn't say that,
They were out.
they gave me the money to use at my discretion. I used that money to pay that bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was from the sale of the truck, it wasn't like it was just me
Yeah.
going there saying, hey, I need this.
Cause I don't
for
think
this.
they could do it either that way.
The only way I think, and I don't understand the governmental financial side as good as you guys do, but I think the only way that would be able to happen is to say, hey, we'll cover medical supplies and insurance, use that money to pay that, and then that gets covered from something else. I think that's the only way to,
It's a shell game.
it is, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
Alright, well, give us
Food for thought.
another meeting to, see what,
Is there a commissioner meeting before the council meeting?
No,
It's not,
it'll
okay.
be the
I
ninth
think it's
and
on
the
the 16th.
Okay, then I'll just get on the February agenda then for whatever we decide, if that's okay with you guys.
We'll have an
Yeah, you
answer.
need to go ahead and advertise though, because if it's an additional appropriation, because we're about,
Where do we advertise out of though? Well, we'll have to advertise out of my budget probably regardless, and then, okay.
I mean, I would say you probably need to go ahead and do that because of the
Time. Okay.
What else
The
you got?
last thing is a grant request. It's will you come up here, cause I don't know anything about it.
You'll
So,
advertise that for a public hearing as well.
Grant?
No.
Oh, okay.
so this grant that we're applying for, it's an EMS training grant. It's from IDHS. It's one of the first, state grants that they're giving the opportunity EMS to apply for. And basically, the goal of this is to mock equipment in the back of our trucks into our training room, as like a more lifelike training box, I would kind of say, so,
Hands-on.
yeah.
We can use it for anything training, I know, but we're choosing to use that in our training institute for that purpose.
Is that what you were asking about that? Yeah.
So we're requesting, a brand new life pack monitor, a Lucas device, ultrasound, iStat, IV pump. Any piece of equipment that is in the back of our trucks in real life will be hopefully placed into the training room. We have a lot of our employees who go through these courses, so we feel like it's fair for them to get hands-on back there, prior to getting hands-on in the truck, so they're more familiar. So we are requesting $80,000,
Like to. It's a non-match grant,
So it's
just,
80,000 or nothing.
correct. I mean, they might say we'll give you 50 or 40, we're
But
requesting.
we're not matching.
We don't match it.
100% match.
Correct.
So,
So we just like your graces to do so.
Or just don't purchase anything until you got the money.
Tracking.
Zach, he already had that comment in there, right?
I see that.
We'll just leave it at that. But,
Yeah.
anyway, you guys got any comments or?
No,
So I guess
Good deal.
I'll entertain a motion
I'll make a motion.
to sign them to sign their form.
I'll make a
Grant
motion for you to
request.
apply for grant.
Alright, I gotta sign it, don't I?
She's got one that I think, you want them to sign that one?
That'd be fine, whatever you guys have, I don't care.
You all have copies of what it looks like. It's a pass-through, so where it comes from them, goes to you. I'd have to get the council's approval, get a fund set up, so.
Randy's made a motion to allow them to apply for the grant. Greg?
I'll say.
Greg sections it, I'll make it unanimous, so.
Thank you.
And I haven't wrote 23 yet, so.
Thank you. Any questions for me?
Yeah,
Concerns,
how's the
comments?
trucks coming?
We got, the first one, the motor replacement, we got back yesterday.
Everything seem all right?
It made it back from Gordon.
That's not
It, said, do our best to keep it under, 4,000 RPMs between now and the first oil change. He said, take the oil change short at 3,000 instead of the 5,000, just to let it break in, so, we've got it in service, because I have to have it. We actually brought one of our trucks to John Jones yesterday, because it's fallen flat on its face. Turns out that the high pressure fuel pump and CP3 in it are bad. That's under warranty, thank God. And then we've got the other one with the motor issue right now, so I'm down 2 trucks. I got one back to send one away, so that's.
How are you making sure that nobody takes it over 4,000 right now?
Bar me riding in that truck for 24 hours straight for the next 3 weeks. There's no way, besides me telling them.
I mean, have you
That's
assigned that truck to just a couple people to make sure, that so there's a little bit of ownership?
The same crews work on the same trucks, so it's gonna be one of 6 people driving. That's only those 6 people, because each shift is 2 people. So A, B, and C shift, it's those people, it's the same people every day. So it won't be like 18 people drive that truck. It'll be 2 people one day, 2 people one day, 2 people one day, and then it repeats back to the first 2 people, so.
So at 70 or 80 miles an hour, what's it, RPMs?
28.3, so I mean, it's.
So it's just on takeoff.
Yeah, I mean, red line on it's 4,500, so it's not like it's a huge, I mean, they have to be, we had a mandatory meeting last night that was 2.5 hours long. But that was a topic of it, of this truck needs, we understand you have to respond to runs, but we also don't have to push the pedal through the floor. You're saving yourself 30 seconds longer to get somewhere. We'll save this motor and the, 12 grand we just spent on it, so we had a lengthy talk about it. So.
They're aware of it.
They are, they're aware, we've conversed, they know the situation. So, and I trust that they'll do the right thing, because I mean, they enjoy the bigger trucks and the trucks that they're in, so I mean, if they ruin them, they're out of them, so I mean, that doesn't benefit them to be a jackwagon in it either, so. And like I said, I trust that
So
they'll
no
see
drag
my
race.
advice, yeah, no drag racing.
Behind the hospital and all that stuff?
We try to only do that on Saturday nights.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay, thanks,
Is
Brian.
that all you got?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again,
And you're doing a super job, guys.
Yeah.
All of you
tell your people we appreciate the balance sheet, so.
Will do.
All right, Kevin.
are. Hey, you still out?
We've been looking for some of those.
I just got that in, I brought it to show you. So, the sheriff wanted us to mark our signs somehow, to approve their hours, so we ordered a stamp, so we're gonna start
Oh, cool.
stamping them. with that, so I think we can at least prove they're ours. I probably hit that one too hard, that was the first one. Yeah. That was practice.
Is you mad?
Yeah, I may hit that too hard. That's our solution anyway for now. We'll
And
see how that
I
works.
guess we're at the end of the year, but do you have any kind of running total of how much we've lost in signs? I know,
No, not honestly, not an exact
I
amount.
mean, are we
but-
talking 10, 15,000?
Oh, yeah, but, yeah, every bit of that.
Cause I think at one time, I think you said 30.
Yeah, when we kinda, he gave us like $5,000 out of art funds maybe, and we ordered a bunch of them, they're all those new ones we put up out of that were gone. So, there's 5,000 right there. There's a lot.
Well,
It's, but I don't know the solution to it.
I
Hope
do.
it slows down.
A battery and a cable.
That's a good start.
Yeah, it's a start. I mean, at least they can prove they're ours if they find them. That was the problem, so. Okay, Bridge 105, I was gonna give you a quick update on that. They plan on pouring the deck Monday. So, all the deck pans on. They was finishing tying a rebar, earlier today. So I assume they'll set their screed and everything up over the next couple of days. Weather's not gonna hold real good for them, so they're gonna wrap it and heat it and all that good stuff. So, yeah, all in all, it's going the right direction.
Good deal.
It's all, like I say, totally out of the mud now.
So what is the 120 day deadline? What is that date? March?
Yeah, late March or April, some of that area. They're looking real good. They're coming along fine. I mean, getting up out of the creek itself would have been the most challenging part, and they're way beyond that. So
Good deal.
that'll be good.
That's positive.
The next
I
thing,
actually haven't heard too many complaints about people having to drive around, but
that's a good thing.
except the four wheelers, they
Yeah,
wanna come down.
they float them across. Annual bids. So I looked at all the annual bids, and I was just gonna ask that you approve all bids. And we'll use them as we go through the year. And Silvercom was wanting to roll their annual bid from 2023 to 2024, so no increase. So I just need to get it signed.
So we do that just a group thing?
Yeah, cause we already opened that.
Yeah, we already
Beginning of December, right?
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the, what do they call it,
Just annual bid.
just the annual bid package for rock and sand and all the materials. I wanna.
I'll make that motion, except the bids.
Randy makes a motion to accept the annual bid and also renew, the annual bid rollover for Civicon.
I see.
Greg seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so. Oh, your way first. What else you got?
The next thing is the speed ordinance for out on Bridge 28 in that location. So we advertised it on December 13th and December 20th. So, not sure where we're at. No,
There it is.
there it is.
Oh, you got a copy of it? Okay. Was it advertised for this meeting? And I don't necessarily think that it's not an appropriation, so I believe that if you wanted to, you could take action on it and advertise its passage. There's a separate statute that deals with this type of ordinance, so and we're not expending money or anything like that, so,
Just so you got a road.
yeah, it's part of the, and,
It's a federal grant. isn't it?
yes, the auditor's office has a copy of the engineering study, which we made a part of the ordinance, basically as the basis for it. And, I mean, I think you can take action on it at this point. If you do wanna pass it tonight, you would need to make a motion to pass it by unanimous consent at a single meeting. If not, we can pass it on the first reading tonight and we'll do a second
We have the
reading.
ordinance. Do you have an ordinance number?
This
This
would
will
be
be the first one. Yeah, it'll be the first one.
You know, one's a long ways number. All right, I'll go ahead and read it since it's the first time a lot of people have seen it. Ordinance number, actually, is this right? It says 2023, should be 2024.
You can make that correction. That's why we do the readings.
See, I've signed a lot of things and put dates down, I haven't done it yet, so. Says, ordinance number 2024 OR1, ordinance alternating speed limits on certain roadways, whereas pursuant to IC Code 5-22-2-13, Scott County is the governmental body, and where under IC Code 36-2-2-2, the Board of Commissioners is the county executive for the Scott County. Whereas an pertinent part of IC Code 9-21-5-3 states, the maximum speed limit set forth in section 2 of this chapter may alter or as follows by local jurisdiction under section 6 of this chapter. Whereas IC Code 9-21-5-3 provides that whenever a local authority in the authority's jurisdiction determines that the maximum speed permitted under this chapter is greater or less than reasonable and safe under the conditions found to exceed on a highway or part of a roadway, the local authority may determine and declare reasonable and safe maximum limits on the highway. Whereas prior to alternating speed limit, the local jurisdiction must perform an engineering traffic investigation. Whereas the Board of Commissioners, having performed an engineering and traffic investigation as part of the Scott County Bridge number 2872-00028 for the Leota Road over the Big Ox Creek, where determines that the maximum speed permitted under state law is greater than the reasonable and unsafe under the conditions found to exist on the highway. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Scott County incorporates engineering and traffic investigation findings as the basis for its determination and attach them to this ordinance as Exhibit 8. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners of Scott County, Indiana, the Board of Commissioners of Scott County has determined that the maximum speed limit on the roadway, that being the roadway of Leota over Big Ox Creek and all approaches to the bridge, is greater than the reasonable and unsafe conditions found to exist on the highway. Pursuant to IC Code 9-21-5-3 and IC Code 9-21-5-6, the Board of Commissioners determined that alter the maximum speed limit to 45 for the above described roadway to ensure the continued safety of traveling public. The ordinance is effective upon passage, signing, recording by the presiding officers of the respective executive of the county, and upon posting the speed limit signage along the described roadway. Adopted by the Board of Commissioners of Scott County, Indiana on this day, and again, it's 24. So, read it. I'll entertain a motion to accept the ordinance 2024 OR1.
I'll make that motion.
Randy makes a motion to adopt the ordinance. Greg,
Is that on a single?
on a single reading.
Unanimous consent.
On a single reading. Greg?
I'll second.
Greg seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so 3, no. First day, or actually the third day. I go this way. What else you got?
The thing I was gonna touch base on is, the dump site. Clark County reached back out, or I reached back out to them. They're gonna require some more testing, so they're waiting on their engineering department to send me what they're gonna require. So we gotta start from ground zero again and send it back out. They said there's a lot of things that changed in 2024, I guess, for them to be compliant. So we're working on it, but it's at a snail pace still.
So we still tying up trucks?
No, I put it in a dry spot. We wrapped it all in plastic, and just as soon as as soon as they tell us what we, we'll have to do, we'll get it done, but right now we're waiting.
It's a good idea on those.
Yeah, I think they'll work. That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate all the work you guys are doing. I know I've seen some, a lot of culverts being put in and whatnot, so.
Oh, yeah.
All right, do we have an ordinance for the?
You don't need the ordinance.
Tom
You been
Spice?
making her happen, brother.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Contract is what it's
Said
for.
the same.
And these are
I'll send you a
correct,
copy.
just
Just-
but that would be resolution number 1.
Where's the ordinance?
Resolution, okay.
Was the other one that you signed? I thought you gave it back to me.
All right,
Did I give you
this
the
is another, phone
You did.
stipend,
Oh, okay.
request by,
And
the
I'll send you a
VA.
copy of this.
So,
We're good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Resolution number 2024R, and it's, what?
P2.
No, it's a resolution. not
Oh,
an
right, oh,
ordinance.
yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Send you a digital version of it, and then we'll talk.
I got a question, because we just, hey, you were happy about being 24, but down here it says,
Well, that's the ordinance. Oh, it's on the passage, okay.
yeah, okay, I'm gonna read this real quick, because we haven't done this for a while. Resolution number 2024R1, approving cell phone stipend request, whereas pursuant to IC code 5-22-2-13, Scott County is the governmental body, and under IC code 36-2-2-2, the Board of Commissioners is the county executive for Scott County, whereas pursuant of ordinance number 2023-OR-5, the Scott County Commissioners has approved a policy permitting cell phone stipend requests for certain positions in the county contingent upon significant appropriations by the Scott County Council. Whereas the Veterans Service Coordinator has submitted upon cell phone stipend request in compliance with the local ordinance and policy outlining the necessity and basis for the request. Whereas having reviewed the cell phone stipend request, the Board of Commissioners approves the cell phone stipend request to be sent to the Scott County Council for appropriation. So this is again for, and talked with Zach today, and I think we did this right. Didn't know we did it right, but we did do it right. When instead of giving cell phone stipends to individual names, we're giving it to departments, and that goes with the department no matter who's working there or not, so we don't have to continue to backtrack and make new ones all the time, so. Anybody has any?
And I didn't know what to call the position, so I just gave it the Veterans Coordinator position.
I think that's fine. Yeah. Got any questions?
Nope, I make a motion to pass it.
Randy,
Resolution over.
Randy makes a motion to pass resolution number 2024R1. Greg? Greg seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous. So again, the third day. 3-0. All right. Marty Randall. Wait, well, we don't have to address you anymore, you don't work here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me go ahead and pass out.
Pass out.
Yeah, let me go and pass out.
Nick?
Please don't.
Alert as ever. You've got your December 2023, report in front of you.
I had a good holiday, did you?
I beg your pardon?
I had a good holiday, didn't you?
Sure.
Go ahead, Marty.
Once again, we had an excellent month. Permits just, or requests for information just keeps pouring in. We've already issued 2 permits in 2024, one for a house, one for a pole barn, yay! So, it seems as if we hit a lull at the end of December, But of course, you have to expect that because of the holidays and everything. But still, we had a good month. Which brings us to the fact that we are definitely going to have to work on getting our fees increased. Even though I can see from working on the annual report, which I hope to have for you at your next meeting, I don't think I know we're not meeting all our expenses. And that should be the goal of your fee schedule, is to meet your expenses in the plan commission and the building commission. So those are unfortunately going to have to go up, but I tell you, you know, when I tell people how much they owe, most of them look at me and go, is that all? Yeah, that's it. You know, everything, it's all encompassing, you know, that one application covers everything. And, you know, those who are coming, especially from Floyd or Clark, they can't believe it. So.
Well, we haven't raised them since 2006. I mean.
Yeah, so they really, hopefully by February, the Plan Commission will have something in front of them and they can consider that. You will also note down at the bottom that the Board of Zoning Appeals is going to meet in this room next Wednesday at 6. We've got a conditional use variance to consider, and right after that, 6:30, Plan Commission is going to meet to consider a rezoning filed by the Scott County Redevelopment Commission.
That's a big no.
I know. But nonetheless, that's what we've got ahead of us. I must say, Michelle Watts, who you very well employed to take my place, which she agrees, eventually she's gonna do that. She was going to come tonight. I said, you know what, you're tired, go home. So she did. But we have an issue over the wage that she was hired at. We're gonna get that worked out. You'll be getting paperwork on that. I believe you may have something on an encumbrance in front of you. Yes, no,
I
no,
think there
yes.
should be one in there if I want to make
Okay.
copies real quick.
No.
Keep going.
Do you need copies?
No.
Okay.
Well, I could give it to Mike and he might share it with someone.
Probably not.
That's a encumbrance request because the funds that were approved finally by the county council, the transfers, in December, they were never used because of course Michelle started yesterday. So now we're going to ask them to encumber that amount and keep it in that training line so that money instead will be used as I train her,
Yeah.
okay?
I believe they were in agreement with that anyway. We thought it was gonna happen in
Well,
December,
you know, everybody said, well, we wish you could have gotten to this sooner. And that way it goes, you know.
Well, it was bad timing at the end of the year with holidays and everything else, and it just didn't work
Exactly.
out, so.
Exactly.
We need that.
Well, you can either keep it or not, I don't care. So we're gonna get all that worked out. Hopefully, we'll be going before the county council next week to make sure that they will approve that. Okay, since Michelle Watts is my replacement, that means we only still have 4 people on the Board of Zoning Appeals, so you guys get to appoint someone.
That's for the BZA, correct?
Yes, for the BZA.
Okay, so,
Greg Gibson started, and then Michelle came on for 1 meeting, and now,
yeah.
you know,
Alright, so we all need to think about that, and then at the next meeting, we need to have somebody on board, so.
Yeah.
And BZA is a little bit more controversial than area plan. 'Cause,
Right.
People are usually going in asking for something that's outside of what our rules and regulations are already, so, and sometimes they don't get the answers they want.
Right.
And, I just had a meeting today, and everybody was talking about being on the area plan and saying the same thing about that board too, is that you never walk away, always, somebody's always mad because, they didn't get what they wanted, so. So anyway, think about a person, and we'll reconvene at our next meeting and bring a name. So what else you got?
Oh, not much. Like I say, Michelle's just diving in as fast as she can. We're kind of leaving my actual leave date open for right now because she's going, I can't learn all this. Well, it is a lot to learn, as you are all aware.
I'm sure.
And that's why we are trying to work through, but like we started one thing, yesterday morning and had an applicant walk in right away and then 3 more right after, it is just a constant stream down there.
Well, it's positive, but also, I will say this, is that I've been questioned by some people that didn't do the proper procedure of getting a permit prior to, building a shed or doing something or anything to do with what you have to have a permit to do. And they're like, well, what do I do now? Well, you can go buy the permit. And there'll have to be an inspection and whatever, and if it's, I'm sure it meets their criteria, but you gotta do your due diligence. You just can't wait till you sell the property, 10 years from now and find out that, well, that building wasn't on there and this wasn't on there, and I don't see too much of a problem with that as much as I do with septics, where somebody will drop a septic in some place and not get a permit, and then when they come to sell their house, when they do the inspections and everything else, it may not meet code, so.
Well, septic permitting has totally changed.
Again.
Right, so what's that now?
It's,
My understanding is that, I'm not gonna get into the specifics, but basically, there's some requirements now that permits be issued after certain timeframes, whether or not certain things are up to code.
Like grandfather down or something?
No, I'm talking about new. You need to look at the health, I think we need to talk to the health department about it, but there's some changes in how the enforcement of septic code requirements works.
and I believe Tim has already attended, at least one meeting on that. We just haven't had time to talk.
Well, I have heard some stuff about that as a little bit, and it's mainly is that technology has changed
Advanced.
somewhat to where, all these lateral lines don't actually have to be there as long as you have some, intermittent boxes and some other stuff. So, but yeah, we need to make sure we're still doing it right. But the whole point is that if, we need to have a permit, there's people that are doing the right thing, still some people not doing the right thing.
Right.
And I think the biggest challenge we're gonna have as a county is, the tiny homes and people thinking they can live in a shed, so. And I'll say it here, and I've said it in an area plan meeting, but I'll say it here. I don't wanna see somebody in a tent someplace, but I also don't wanna see somebody in a shed that has been built with, plywood that's got formaldehyde in it, and you're sleeping in there, and it's confined area. So, there's pros and cons. Are you sleeping in a tent, or are you sleeping in a, got a roof over your head, but we need to, I think, and this is where government kind of steps in places I think sometimes they don't need to be, but, we need to protect some of the people that aren't protecting themselves, so.
Well, like I've had a going argument with, one of my good friends. She just moved several months ago to a new area. and right down the road, there's a cute little shed. And we know there's somebody living in it. And I said, I'm gonna have to write him a letter. He's not hurting anything. I said, you see that pile of wood over there? That pile of wood tells me he's got a wood stove in there. I wonder how that was installed.
Yeah.
I would feel terrible if someone was injured or lost their lives
Yeah.
because of a fire. And that's what worries me the most, is bad wiring or a bad wood stove.
Well, we're not there to hold everybody's hand, but we're there to try to stay within the rules.
Well, I always tell everybody, I say the only reason why we're here is to make sure that what you build is gonna be safe for everybody to walk in, that no one's gonna get harmed.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
All right,
thank you for
appreciate
my
it. Again.
gainful employment currently.
Certainly had a busier year than 22, sure.
Oh, I can't wait to get that report done, because it should show some interesting. Congratulations, if you look down here where it breaks it down by township, Lexington again leads the, $816,000 worth of improvements to Lexington Township. Now, 500 of that is one house.
Yeah.
That trend is still continuing, that the huge homes are being built out in the countryside.
That's good.
Yeah.
Keep building.
Keep building. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it. ARPA resolution, health insurance rate increase. This was something that we talked about at the end of the year with our insurance. This is our medical insurance we have on county employees. And we talked at the January, I think the first meeting in December, I'm sorry. And we renewed our insurance with our insurance company and, with Cigna, and with that came a 3% increase, to the county. We talked about, passing on to the employees. We talked about absorbing it, into the county, and I think we ended up deciding that we were going to, for this year only, to absorb it, so not to pass it on to the employees. So, do you have that resolution?
So I have the resolution, which actually we do need to print a new copy of this one.
Your computer ought to tell you that it's 24.
Well, actually what we need to print an additional copy of is I did not know that basically the amount that we
It's
were.
3%, I don't know.
Okay.
Well, hang on a minute.
We had that number.
It's 65.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute, let me see what it is here.
But what we can do is, I'll go ahead and send this, if you'll print this, and we can fill in the specific. And the reason I think I'm doing it by amounts is really just to track, I think, all expenditures
Yeah,
from the same
I'm trying to,
line item, rather than doing it as like a percentage.
I thought it was 65,000 or something, it's, Jennifer, do you remember that? I know we were both on an email.
She's not here.
Oh, wow. So, Nick again.
I don't know, that number sounds right.
Hang on, I'm trying to find the right email here from Emily. $66,009.72. You're right, Greg.
Did we ask if anybody had anything?
Can you state that again?
Pardon me?
Did we ask if anybody had anything before we start making it up?
Can you read that number again, please, Mike?
$66,009.72.
Thank you.
So what the hell are you finding Wednesday morning? 9 o'clock. Thank you, sir.
There's a blank space on that page, and then there's a markout on another page for the specific amount.
So this is gonna be resolution 2, correct?
Yes.
You want me to put in the number here?
Yes.
All right. Resolution 2. A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Scott County, Indiana, approving plan for provisions of government services through the American Rescue Plan Act. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Scott County, Indiana Board has been tasked by the County Council of Scott County with implementing programs and funds from the American Rescue Plan Act pursuant to the guidelines and rules of the United States Treasury. Whereas the board is the executive and legislative body of Scott County, Indiana, whereas ARPA section 603-C-1 provides that funds may be used for the following purposes: to respond to the public health emergency or its negative economic impacts, including the assistance to households, small businesses, and nonprofits, or aid to the impact industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. B, to respond to the workers providing the essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency by providing premium pay to eligible workers. C, for the provision of the government services to extend of the reduction in the revenue due to COVID-19 public health emergency related to the revenues collected in the most recent full fiscal year prior to the emergency. And D, to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. Whereas the board has received rate increases from the provisions of health insurance costs for the county employees, and the board desires to offset the rate increase and cost by allocating the differences between the prior fiscal year's health insurance costs and the present fiscal year's health insurance costs. Whereas the provision of health insurance is necessary and requires service offered by the county to its employees and permissible use of the ARPA funds pursuant to the rules and guidance of the United States Treasury. Whereas the project constitutes government services within the meaning of the guidance of the United States Treasury, including but not limited to the final rule published by the United States Treasury and made effective as of April 1st, 2022. The final rule, which broadly defines government services. Whereas the board has agreed to allocate $66,009.72 in ARPA funds for the project, which is the price difference between the fiscal year's health insurance costs and the present fiscal year's health insurance costs. Now therefore it be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Scott County, Indiana, the board hereby finds and determines the project constitutes provisions of government services as contemplated and permitted under the final disbursement of $66,009.72 of ARPA funds to pay for the price difference between the prior fiscal year's health insurance costs and the present fiscal year's health insurance costs. The president of the board and the auditor's office, Indiana, are hereby authorized and directed to finalize and execute any documents and take any actions as may be necessary or appropriate in the furtherance of this resolution. The resolution is effective immediately upon passing, adopted this third day of January 2024. I'll entertain a motion. Well, first of all, if you guys got any questions or comments or?
So we'll need to do an advertisement for council for an additional appropriation from that line item at that amount, not to exceed that amount. And just once you pass it. So I think that would go on to the February meeting.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2, using ARPA funds for $66,000. $9.72.
All right, Randy's made a motion to adopt resolution number 2, which is a resolution by the Board of Commissioners approving the use of ARPA funds to pay for the 3% increase in our medical insurance to our employees. Greg?
I'll second.
Greg seconds that. I'll make that unanimous. Go back over there again. All right. Consideration of any special invoices. And also the regular claims. Everybody had an opportunity to look over all
Would you
the,
hand it to me?
Yes, I'll wait until you finish the
Oh,
slides.
that's right.
everybody had an opportunity to look at the claims that Mandy sent to you.
Yes.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept the claims as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the claims.
Greg, or actually Randy makes a motion to accept the claims, and Greg seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so. Consideration of the payroll for December 29th of 2023. She's got it. I'll entertain a motion to approve the payroll claims for December 29th,
I'll make a motion.
2023. Randy makes a motion. Greg?
I'll second.
Greg seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous. While we're at the end of the meeting here, I think we're gonna have to amend the agenda for at least 2 items. One is for our attorney.
So this is a contract for employment of attorney for the 2024 fiscal year. It's exactly the same as the 2023 contract and no changes, so significant.
All right, I entertain a motion to amend the agenda for 2 items, one being the contract for our attorney and the other one for organization of the Board of Commissioners for 2024.
I'll make that motion.
Randy makes the motion to amend the agenda, and Greg seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so. All right, now to the contract in hand. It is the same as our 2023 contract with our county attorney, so. Look at it, or, you wanna look at it, or?
It's the same.
I remember it.
So I'll entertain a motion, hang on a second. I'll entertain a motion to renew or continue the contract with our county attorney for the calendar year 2024 with no changes in the contract.
I think Zach's done pretty good, I'll make that motion.
Randy makes a motion, Greg. Greg seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, and I'll have to agree that, I don't have any complaints. And, I'll tell Greg gets, signs that too. So you're hired again. I appreciate the work you've done this year, not just for us, for others too. Well, you didn't sign it. All right, the other part of the amendment to the agenda is to organize this board again, so we need to, every year, organize with the president and a vice president of the board, so I'll entertain any motions or any comments whatsoever from anybody, so.
Make a motion to keep you as president, if you'll accept it.
I'll accept it, I enjoy it, so. I'll second that. Well, guess I'll take that, so, and then we have to do the vice president as well, so. You still wanna be the vice president?
Yeah.
So. Greg, you fine with that?
I'm fine with that.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the board as we were in 2023 for 2024, so. I'll make that motion and, so I guess we're done, unless somebody's got something else. And I usually make notes about some stuff, so I don't know that I've got anything that.
The only thing I had is I was actually wrong about the alternate speed limit ordinance. We've already done we did not have the notice for a specific date, so we've already done all the advertisements for it, so we're fine.
I will say this, and had Jennifer print off our appointments for 2024 to boards and stuff, as you know, Marty brought up a minute ago, we do have to change some things with the BZA, the county BZA, so have a look at.
a copy in front of you that's blank. I think I printed them off, but I don't remember if I got
This
them in
one's
here.
blank.
Okay, that's.
But anyway, we're not gonna do anything tonight. I want you to look at that. I also want you to, you know, come up with some names, and our next meeting will, you know, keep people where they're at, add some people. Pardon me?
Has anybody reached out wanting to be on that nobody has me?
I haven't had anybody contact me or in conversation about wanting to serve. I will say this, as one of our last meetings, that Don Cooper is resigning as far as on the visitors board, so we'll have to appoint somebody to that position. And then
Wasn't there an opening in one of those positions
there's an opening at
for the business appointee?
they brought a person for someone, but I'm drawing a blank.
Did we already do that?
Well, I think there's, if I'm not mistaken, there is a, there's, if it's 2019, is that, I mean, that appointment is an appointment, and that's a library board appointment, and usually say, she usually, Darlene usually sends, say, the letter with the request, you
Well-
know.
I called her yesterday and she is out this week. I have talked about sending her an email. I will do that as soon as this meeting's over to see if, what she has, what needs to be done.
So there's, just look them over, we're not gonna dive too. I will say this, and you need to clarify this, cause we have the Board of Health as we've always had it here. That has changed with some regulations of who appoints who, and the city now has appointments, so
And I think the way we've opted to go is
the city's got
city
the
will take the
appointment.
first year
Yeah,
and the county council will get the next one.
yeah,
So if we have, because I think we only have one person that's rolling off,
that's correct,
so I think I
actually,
just need to send something to,
yeah.
council for the city and ask that, the mayor provide his 3 recommendations. We still technically make the appointment, but the
That's what
mayor,
I didn't understand.
yeah, the mayor has to be consulted,
Okay,
and we actually make the appointment from his list.
okay, that's, I can swallow that a little better. So, it's just, I didn't like how it's, I get it, and I understand why the state did what they did, it's part of the new, their new plan, but.
It had a lot to do with, I think, negotiating kind of, local involvement of different groups in the health board, and all of that kind of came to the forefront, I think, during COVID. When there was a lot of concern about, who kind of had a voice on those boards.
Look over that, cause I wanna make sure also, we don't have anybody coming off the corrections board, do we?
I will forward that list.
I know we
I've
just
read
Made
the
about
print, yeah.
15 appointments.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think all of them, I don't know how many are 1 year, and I hate to say on that top line.
They're actually all 1 year. So
Oh, they are?
We
Okay.
have to either
Yeah.
just say blanket renew everybody, or,
Okay, I will forward those lists to you.
and actually, I'm looking at another one here, is there not a 911 board?
I don't believe that we have a 911 board.
I think we used to.
I think we did at one point, but I do not believe that we have one.
Well, we need to,
I think that was mentioned during budget that
I think
it's
we need to
defined.
correct that, 'cause- and
Well, the creation of a 911 board is usually done by interlocal agreement. And
we had them before, cause I
Yeah.
know people that were on it.
and there are some, like, effects that happen when you do that. We would not have all the appointments to that.
I get that, the city would have one, both cities would have one, probably have one.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that, I'm just
Oh,
saying.
I think we need to, and there's a reasoning for this, I mean, because, and Nick's gone, but with the price of everything going up and the cost of services, especially at 911, especially with the EMS, even though, you know, Nick and his crew out there has turned a deficit into a big positive, is that I'd like to see some, I guess, some money come from, and that's where the 911 is a situation where I don't know that either city is contributing to 911. And they may be, they may not be. I know they're not contributing to EMS, and majority of the runs are in both cities. So I would like to see some engagement with the cities to say, you know, we need some help. And I'm not asking for an arm or a leg, but I think that we need to address that with some financial support And, so anyway, we need to figure out the board, and maybe I reach out to some people that were involved with 911 in the beginning, because there was a board formed. I think it's kind of fell away, and we need to get that back, so.
But we probably need to, it's a timing thing. I
Do
think
what?
we need to wait.
I didn't hear what you said, what?
I agree with what you're saying. I think there's a timing issue. Probably need to wait and have a discussion.
Oh, I agree, and that's why I'm saying is we just need to have a discussion about it, so.
Yeah,
So you got anything else, Randy? Or you got anything?
well. Yeah, no. All right, now.
Craig?
No,
You,
I think I'm good.
Mr. Attorney?
You got anything?
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything?
All right, I'll entertain a motion to
You don't have
adjourn.
anything?
Well, I'm just glad to see you're here.
Yeah.
Glad you're doing well.
Thanks.
You know, she wanted to be at the last one too, so that one's a workhorse right there. That is a workhorse.
So anyway, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Randy makes that motion, Greg?
I'll second.
Greg seconds it, I'll make it unanimous, so.